Parameters and arguments. Most of the times you'll come across something like this, seeing a value inside of a function, or in most cases, you might be required to pass in a value in between an open and close parenthesis. Now the value here is called a parameter, while the value here is called an argument. So right now, let us differentiate between the both of them. Right here, over here in parameter. Now the difference between the both is that the name we pass in while creating the function never existed anywhere in that function. It's just like creating a new variable which will be assigned a value to it later. Alright. So the name we pass in here when we are defining the function, it never existed anywhere. It's just like defining a new variable when you are creating a new variable which you assign a value to it later. Okay, let us move over to the argument. And this is a value that will be passed in to the variable which was created while defining the function. This value must not be empty. It must be either already existing variable with values or a string. Example, hello world. So the argument is the value we are going to pass in to the variable we have created when we are defining the function. Now this is a parameter and this is an argument. A parameter is the variable listed inside the parentheses in the function definition. An argument is the value that are sent to the function when it is being called. Here on my PyCharm, I've created a function named greetings, and then here I pass in an a parameter. I pass in a parameter here, and the name of my parameter is fname. Simply means first name. All right, fname. So right here, I place in some print statements that will print welcome fname. Then I greet you. All right, just like when you are creating a variable, and then you use an input statement to take the user's input, then greet the user according to what the user entered. Maybe something like welcome the user input. Okay, welcome user input, I greet you. Right, so this thing here acts as input. Okay, so right here we can see welcome fname, I greet you. Okay, whatsoever the fname is, we welcome you and greet you. Okay, so this is a parameter. This is a parameter. It was created. It's just like a variable that will contains the value the user will enter. Okay, that will contains the value you enter when calling the function. So this is a variable you've created, and here you're using the variable. Okay, so right here, our remember the function has ended, and then right here we are calling out the function. Okay, we are calling the function. It's just something like this. Remember to call the function, you just have to type in the function name, then followed by the parentheses. So because there is a value here, there's a parameter here, we need to also include a value here. We need to also include a value here, as this is a parameter, this is the argument we are talking about. Argument is a value that will be placed for the parameter. Okay, the parameter is just like a variable that is created. It is empty at this time until a value is placed on it, and this value is called an argument. All right, so right here wants to print this out. Print greetings Francis. Okay, once I run the program, I will get welcome Francis is although welcome Francis, I greet you, but there's no space there. I have to include the space here and also include the space here. Okay, so when I run it again, it says welcome Francis, I greet you. Okay, so this is just like an input that takes an input. Whatsoever you entered here, that's what it will work with. Maybe I'll say Mike. Once I run the program, it says, welcome Mike, I greet you. All right. So this is an argument and this is a parameter. Okay, we may just clean this up. Let us do some calculation using this. Let's just name this calculation. Okay, let's remove this parameter. So right here we have just a function. Okay, now let us enter the height. Okay, we have set the height and we want to calculate the height and the width of maybe an angle. Okay, so we have gotten the height. We may say height is equals to height, or maybe angle height is equals to height, then angle width, maybe let's say it starts, we don't know the height, so we set the triangle, the angle height to be equals to height. This is just like a variable, which is the parameter we created. This is the parameter, and here we are setting our angle height to be equals to the parameter, which we are going to pass in when we are calling the function. So right here we said angle width is 30, so we want to multiply the both. Here we say angle height times angle width. Okay, we are going to store this in a variable. Maybe let's call this results. Okay, so right here let's return the result. Okay, the return statement, we use the return statement to return a value. Like if we should remove this return statement, you can see here results is blank, is not that sharp. Okay, let's forget about it. Let's just call the function first. The name of the function is calculation, so we call the function, and the function requires an argument. Because of this we have passed in a parameter, so while calling the function we have to enter an argument. If I should run this without an argument, it will give us an error. It says calculation missing one required positional argument, height. Okay, the name of the argument is height, so there is only one required argument but none is given, so it says it's missing one required argument. So the height, we want it to be an integer because we are times in the both. So the height, let's say the height is 20. Now if I should run this, we got no result, no error, and no result. Okay, no error, no result. Why? Because we are not returning any value. We have to return a value which will be printed out once we call the program. Okay, like here we have created a variable called result and we assign this value to it, height times width to it. So what we have to do here is to return the results. Okay, is to return the results and it will print out the answer, or we can just use the print statement, maybe to print results. If I should print result, it's gonna be me the right thing. Okay, let's use this for the first time for now. Let's say print result. Okay, calculation, while calling the function calculation, we assign the value 20 to be the height, and then the width is that. So here we are saying height times width, which is 20 times 30. So once I run the program, we get 600. Okay, 20 times 30 equals to 600. So we can also use return statement here instead of print statement. Return results. So once I run the program, it gives me empty, it gives me nothing, no error, and yet nothing was printed out. But when we use the print statement over here, it's printed out something but when we use the return statement, it printed out nothing. Why? So right here we have to use the print statement. What return statement does is that among all this block of codes that is here, I just want to return this. Okay, so when was this is called, when was this is called, this is what that will be printed out. This is what that will function, that will be printed out, something like that. Okay, so once I use the print statement over here, once I use the print statement over here, uh, run the program, we now get the same value, 600. Okay, so I guess using the return statement is what you may be using constantly. Okay, and now if you can still check under here, you see a yellow line, down here. This simply means Python wants me to give some space after defining a function. That is, after defining a function, you have to give like two specs. I only gave one, so once I give two space, the yellow line has left, right? So you have to give two white space after the function or before the function. Okay, so right here we have gotten 600 once we use the return statement, return the result, and then print this. Number of arguments. You can add as many parameters as you want, just separate them with a comma. For example, here we have created a variable name, we have created a function, and we name this function family. Family is the name of the function we just created. And then right here, we entered three different parameters. Okay, here is the f name, which is first name, here is m name, which is middle name, and here is l name, which is last name. You can enter as many parameters as you want, just separate them with a comma. As you can see right here, they are all separated with a comma. Just separate them with a comma. Okay, this comma here is not needed, but you can just leave it, but it's not needed. It can only be needed when you are adding more of it, maybe more of the items. That's when you need that comma. All right, so here we have created this variable, we have created this function called family, and we assigned three different parameters to it. Okay, now we returned the three of them. We return the f name, the m name, and the last name. We return the three of them. Aside from the returning, here when calling the function, here we call the function by specifying family followed by the parentheses and the arguments. All right, so right here, as you can see here, we've specified three parameters, and then while calling the function, we also specify three values, three arguments to it. Okay, now what happened here is that by default a function must be called with the correct number of arguments, meaning that if your function expects two arguments, you have to call the function with two arguments, not more nor less. All right, not more nor less. Here we have three arguments which is expected for us to call our function with. So when calling the function, we entered three different arguments and also separate them with a comma. As you can see here, separate them with a comma. So if we should remove this and only call this function with two arguments, it will give us an error because we have three parameters specified. So you can only call your argument, you can only call your function with the total number of parameters which were specified. You are going to enter the same amount as your argument. All right, so right now let us move to my PyCharm so we can code more and know more about this. All right, so right here on my PyCharm, we have specified a function which we just created. Sorry, the function name is family. Okay, this is the function we just created using the def keyword. We created a function named family, and then we are passing three parameters to it. All right, we are passing three parameters to it, and then here we are returning the three of them, so that when this function is called, all the parameters here will be called. Once if I remove this, as you can see, the color has faint. The color is no more bright. Means that these parameters was defined, but it was never used within the function. So even though we call this function, it will return nothing. So we have to return all of them. Okay, so here we have returned the f name, the m name, and the l name. Okay, so right over here, let us call the function. The name of the function is family. So we have called the function name family, and here we have three parameters which we are required to enter, also three arguments here. Remember, it says not more or and not less. We have to use exact three arguments right here. Okay, maybe the first name, let me see, be the first name is Francis, and then we have to use a comma to separate this and enter the second name. Maybe the second name is next solution. All right, you have to separate this again, and then lastly we enter the last name, which may be Mike. All right, there is yellow line here, which means you have to give one more space here. Okay, the yellow line has left. All right, so if we should print, if we should reload this, it will give us nothing because we are not printing anything right over here. So here we are going to use the print statement to print this out. So we say print this. Once I run it once more, we are going to get a value, and here the value we get Francis, next solution, and Mike. All right, so it's printed everything because we returned everything right over here. If we should remove maybe the last name, we just return the first and the middle name. Once I run this once more, we only get first and middle name. The last name was not printed. If we should return the last name over here and then maybe remove the middle name, let's try this and see. Once I run this, we only get the first name and the last name. Next solution as the middle name was not printed. Okay, so this is how we are going to do more about it over here on my PyCharm. So what if we have three parameters which are specified here, and what if we enter like maybe two arguments when calling the function? Why the function expects three arguments? Okay, once I run this, let's see, we got an error, and the type error, we got a type error which says family missing one required positional argument hello name. It tells you what is missing, which is the hello name. We only have the f name, and the m name, but the hello name was not specified. So it says missing one required positional argument. All right, so what if maybe we added this and wait, I have completed it. Let's just run the program once more. We got what we are looking for. What if it was SS? Maybe we are expected to enter three arguments and we entered something like four arguments. Okay, and this for, let's call this man maybe let's say name. That's the name of the last person name. Okay, now as you can see, the color here changed. The color here changed. Okay, compared to others have just similar color, but right here the color change simply means there's an error with this last one we just created. Okay, it just means that there is an error with this. As the color change, there is an error. Okay, and the error, the reason why we're getting this error is because the function expects just three arguments and we are giving four. Let's run this to see what will be the error. Okay, the error name is type error, and the error is on family. It says family takes three positional arguments, but four we are given. It takes three right here. You can see it is three, but four we are given. So that is the error message. We have to put the call it according to the number of the parameter which we defined earlier. So this is how we are going to work with it. While naming your parameters, make sure that you enter the total number of parameter which you have defined while calling your function, okay, to avoid some errors. All right. setting a default value to parameters. The following example shows how to use a default parameter value. If we call the function without arguments, it uses the default value. All right. So this following example right here shows the default parameter value. We created a function right over here and we specify a value to this. All right. We created a parameter called country, and then we use the assignment operator. We use the assignment operator to assign a value to it. Okay, here's the assignment operator. We assign a value to it. So earlier, what we have been doing earlier, we just normally create a function, create a parameter, and then try to use the parameter. But now we are going to assign a value to the parameter and see how it works. So right over here, we assign a value called Nigeria to the country parameter. Okay, so what this does is that when once we have called the function, it expects us to enter an argument when calling the function. If an argument was not entered, instead of it to print out an error message, it will just give you the default value, which is this. So right over here, once we try to call this function, we call this function my function. Then when calling the function, we entered a value called Sweden, which is a parameter. We enter, sorry, an argument. We enter an argument called Sweden. So right over here, Sweden will be printed out. Once we call this program, the output will be I am from Sweden. Like this is what you are printing out. Print I am from country. Okay, we set a function called my function, then we assign a parameter called country, and then assign a default value to it called Nigeria. So right here we say print I am from country, okay, which is this country over here. I am from it. So right over here, once we are calling the function and we specify a value to it, here we specified a value called Sweden. So this will simply print I am from Sweden. All right. Then right over here, we call the function again, and then we assign a value to be India. We assign a value as India to it. That's a parameter as India to it. So right here, we'll get I am from India. Okay, I am from India. And then right over here, we call the function again, but this time around, we specified no arguments. You can see there, we just call the function without any argument. Now, what this will do is that it will use the default value which was added earlier, which is this. Here is the default value, and the default value is Nigeria. So when we call a function without an argument, it will use the default value, and the output will be I am from Nigeria. Right over here, we didn't enter any value. We never entered an argument to it, but rather it searches here and uses the default value which was set to the country, and then it will print out I am from Nigeria. Then lastly, right over here, we call the function again and entered Brazil as a country. Then it will still print out I am from Brazil. So once you specify a value to your as a value as an argument to your function when calling the function, it will print out the value when running. But once you didn't specify a value to it, it will use a default value that you have created earlier. What if there's no default value? It will just give you an error message. Okay, because there's a default value, it will just use the default value and never give you an error message. Okay, so why setting a default value? You can see here we first created the parameter, and then after the parameter we used the assignment operator, which is the equal to, and then we use it to assign a value to it, and the value name is here. Okay, so let us move over to my PyCharm so you can understand more of this and know how this works. So right here on my PyCharm, this is the previous code we just created. The previous code we created when we are naming an argument. When we are naming the argument, this is the previous code we used, which when we run the program, it gives us Francis, net solution, and Mike. These are our previous code. So right here, remember then when we removed this argument, it gives us an error message. Like let's try it once more. Like here it says type error, family, missing one required positional argument, hello name. This was the error we got then. Okay, so I want to show you guys how you can use the default value and bypass this so you will not get an error. So remember, when calling a function, you have to specify the values, that is the arguments, according to the number of parameters. It will not be more than and it will not be less. So right over here, I may set a default value to the last name, maybe let it be Mike. Okay, now that I've set a default value to the last name, remember here we call the function with just two parameters before we got an error message, which is this. We got an error message earlier. So right now that I'm calling you with them two arguments, let's run it and see if we still get the error message. Okay, so right here we never get error message again, rather we got Francis, net solution, and Mike. Okay, so what really happened here is that when we have called the Python the function, we have Francis as the first argument, which stays here as the first name. So right here we have the second argument, which stays here as the middle name in the parameter. So right over here we have nothing. There's no more code there. So this particular value will replace the L name. It will replace it and then add it up here and print out the result for us. What if maybe we change the name to maybe some other thing? Let's say maybe uh, John. Once I run the program, remember earlier here we got Mike. We got Mike. So let me run it again and see what will be our output. So right here now we get Francis, net solution, and John, because we stated John to be our default value. Okay, what if maybe I added the L name? Okay, I added the L name and then I set it to be something like uh maybe Michael, or let's just call him Johnson. Okay, once earlier we got John, now we stated Johnson to be the last name. Once I run the program once more, I got Johnson instead of John. Okay, so what happened here is that once we have called the function, Python expects us to enter an argument, and any argument we entered here will be used as the parameters value. But if we never specify an item, if you never specify an argument to this, then Python will search for arguments right here on the parameters, whether we called a parameter with a specified value, which we serve as the argument. So right here is finds one, and notice we call this with an argument. So because of the presence of this will not function, except maybe this does not exist. So here we are going to, it will print out this and then overlook this. Okay, now uh what if we set the value name to be here, maybe the same mic? Okay, we got error right over here. You can see there's a red line over here, there's a red line over there. So this is how it should be. Now we have created this and then specified a value over here. So the value we specified here is what we are going to use, which is JOHN. So right over here, if I should remove this and call this with just two codes, I will get this value over here, Francis, Johnson, and John. The Johnson takes the middle name, while this is not our middle name, this is our last name. Johnson takes the middle name. So if you want to specify this in a clear way where Johnson will remain the last name, because Johnson stays here as the middle name and this stays here as the last name. For Johnson to remain the last name, what we have to do over here, first let us remove this. So what I have to do over here, we might set our f name to be equals to Francis, and then our m name to be equals to Johnson. So right over here, we'll also set our l name to be equals to maybe John. So once I run the program once more, we'll get Francis, Johnson, and John. Okay, I can change this to be the f name, and then right here I'll do this to be the l name, and then do this to be the f name. I just turn everything upside down. Okay, this should be the m name, not f name. Okay, I just turn this upside down. Let's check if it will still print out the real one. Like earlier, it just checks it by the index position of the values. But right now, I called a value an argument while specifying the the parameter's name, and then assign an argument to it. So once I run the program, what are we still going to get? We are still going to get Johnson, John, and Francis. Johnson, John, and Francis. Although Francis is the first one here, but it is now the last one over here because we stated it to be the last name, and then it will take the index position of this. This is the last, which is the third, and then right here we set Johnson to be the middle name over here, and we called it F name, and then F name is the first index position over here. So Johnson will take the first position over here, and then the lastly here we said John as the last. We stated John to be the last one here, but my m name is the middle, so John will take the middle position, which is this. So it doesn't matter how you code it. Once you specify the parameter name followed by the value, which is the argument, it will just give you the value according to how you have placed it. It doesn't matter the index position. But if I should remove this, all of this, it will require index position. It will just take the index according to where it is. Now Francis is my first name, but let's say maybe next solution, then I'll set Francis here. Okay, Francis, I want Francis to be my first name, and the next solution is my middle name. John is my last name. But once I run this, it will give me next solution as the first name, Francis middle name, and John last name, because that was how it was specified here. That was how it was specified here. As I turn Francis to be the F name, then I made John to be my last name. Then next solution I'll turn to be the middle name. So when I call this, it will be arranged in that manner. So I run this program now. I get Francis to be the first, and the next solution to be the middle, and John to be the last. So this is how naming works, and then the setting default value works in Python. But I can add a default value to all of these parameters. Let me say this to be Mike, and this to be next solution. Then this should be Francis. Okay, so when I call this program again, I'll still get the same value here because we specify the values over here. So what if I just call this function without an argument? Maybe family, just like this. Let me assign this to a value, maybe to a variable, and I'll call this variable my family. My family equals to family dot this. So let's print my family. Okay, remember I called this function without an argument. So it will make use of the default values which I have assigned on the tray parameters. So once I run this again, I got Francis, net solution, and Mike. Although nothing was passed in here, all of them was passed in right over here. So that is how it's gonna work. Remember, while specifying a parameter, you can add as many as you want. Maybe age, you can add as many as you want, maybe age and sex. Okay. Then age I never added a value, and sex I never added a value, but let's just add a value, maybe 20, and then uh, this should be met. Okay, here let us return them as age, or let's just turn this to be the maybe first issue. Yes. Okay, so once we run this once more, we get Francis next solution. Mike, he's 20 years, and then he is the first issue. But if I should come over here and specify a value, maybe we don't want to add all of them, we just want to add the ones we need. Maybe Francis is the first name, this is the names, but now he's 21 years old, but he's not the first issue. So here we just add age to be equals to uh 21, because he has added 21, and then we add the first. Is he the first child? No, this is not the first child. Let's specify the value to be no. So when we are so if I should run this now, I just specify two arguments here instead of about how many here, 1 2 3 4 5. Instead of 5 parameters, I just specified only two arguments. So once I run the program over here, we are going to get the same thing. We get Francis next solution, Mike, now he is 21 years and he's not the first child of that family. So this is how default values and then naming works in numbering works in functions in Python. Okay, hope this is clear and working perfectly.
Alright, this is Net Solution and my name is Francis. My name is Francis and this is Net Solution channel, where we provide solutions on everything about coding, mainly using Python. Alright, so I would love to see you on the comment section. Just leave a comment on what you feel about this video. Maybe you find this video helpful. This video helped you a lot. Just leave a comment, or there's a question you wish like to ask. Just leave a comment, and I promise you guys that I'll be right there to answer all your questions. Thank you guys, and if you're new to my channel, just click on the subscription button and also click on the like button if you find the video helpful. Thank you guys. See you on my next video. On the next video, I'm going to treat on nested functions in Python. So we are going to learn more about nested functions in Python.